On the 6th of July, 2019, 4 friends rented a cabin cruiser for a 4th of July weekend on Lake Lanier, Georgia. By the time they abandoned the boat at the marina just after midnight on July 8th, one needed 12 stitches, another had a dislocated shoulder, and all 4 would refuse to ever return to Georgia's most popular lake. What follows is Nathan Cross's account of their encounter with the Lady of the Lake, the crying woman who walks on water, searching for her children who drowned 60 years ago. We don't talk about what happened on Lake Lanier. Derek changes the subject. Josh just goes quiet and Tyler moved to Arizona. But someone should know what's really out there in those coves after dark. We'd rented a 38-foot Sea Ray for the weekend. Me, Derek, Josh, and Tyler. Beautiful boat. 2 bedrooms and a small kitchen. We'd all been stuck working through the actual 4th, so we decided to do our celebration on the weekend instead. Lanier was perfect for it. During the day at least. Saturday was exactly what we'd hoped for. We anchored in a cove near Buford Dam with about 30 other boats. Music blasting. People swimming between boats like it was a floating neighborhood. Derek hooked up with some girls from another boat. Josh got so sunburned he looked like a lobster. Normal lake stuff. By 2 a.m. Sunday morning, the party had died down. Most boats had either headed to shore or gone quiet. We were anchored maybe 200 yards from the nearest boat, and the water was glass smooth, reflecting the half moon overhead. The guys had crashed hard, Derek and Josh in the forward berth, Tyler on the pull-out in the main cabin. I couldn't sleep. The air below deck was stifling, thick with the smell of spilled beer and sunscreen. My skin felt sticky, and every time I closed my eyes, I could still feel the boat's gentle rocking. So I grabbed a water bottle and went up to the deck. The night was perfect. Temperature had dropped to maybe 75 degrees, with just enough breeze to make it comfortable. I sat in the captain's chair and looked out over the water. That's when I heard it. Crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. Like someone who'd been crying for so long they couldn't stop even if they wanted to. It was coming from the shore, maybe 50 yards away. I grabbed the spotlight and swept it across the tree line. The crying stopped immediately. The light caught something blue moving between the trees. Then a woman stepped out onto the small beach. She was wearing a dress, one of those 1950s housewife dresses with the full skirt. It was pale blue, or had been once. Even from that distance, I could see it was soaking wet, clinging to her. Her dark hair hung in wet strings around her face. "Hey," I called out. "You okay? Do you need help?" She took a step toward the water, then another. I expected her to stop at the water's edge, but she didn't. She walked straight in, and her dress didn't float up like fabric should. It stayed plastered to her legs as the water rose to her knees, her waist. The water was at her chest now, then her shoulders. Then she went under. I yanked off my shirt and was about to dive in when she resurfaced, but she wasn't swimming. She was standing, on top of the water, walking on it like it was solid ground. My brain tried to process what I was seeing. Maybe there was a sandbar, a submerged dock. But the water in that cove is 40 feet deep. I know, because we'd checked the depth finder when we anchored. She was walking straight toward the boat, and as she got closer, I could hear her talking. She wasn't crying anymore. She was talking, mumbling the same words over and over. "Where are my babies? Have you seen my babies? They were just here. They were just playing here." I backed away from the rail, Everything in my body was screaming at me to go below, lock the door, hide, but I couldn't move. She was 20 feet away now, still walking on the surface, leaving tiny ripples with each step. "Please," she said, and her voice was normal, conversational, which made it so much worse. They're 4 and 6, sweet boys. They were wearing their swimsuits, the red ones I bought them for the summer. 10 feet away, I could see her face now in the moonlight. Her skin was grey-white, like a fish belly. Her eyes were solid black, no whites at all. Water dripped from her hair, but it wasn't lake water. It was too dark, too thick. "Mom, My voice cracked. "I haven't seen them." She tilted her head to the side like a bird. "But you're on the water. Everyone on the water sees them eventually. They play between the boats. Such good swimmers now. 60 years of practice." 60 years. The lake was created in the late 50s. "I should go," I said, taking another step back. She smiled. Her teeth were brown like old tea stains. "Will you help me look? Just for a few minutes. Come into the water. Help me find them." "No, I can't." The smile vanished. "They're scared of the boats," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "All these boats. So many boats now. Not like before, when it was just trees and houses and my garden with the tomatoes." She reached out one hand toward the boat's ladder, and I heard myself whimper. Actually, whimper. "Derek!" I shouted. The woman's head snapped toward the cabin door, and she let out a sound I'll never forget. A hiss, like steam escaping, filled with rage. Then she simply wasn't there anymore. No splash, no ripple. Gone. Derek stumbled out 30 seconds later, squinting and pissed. "What the hell, man?" I tried to explain, but I was shaking so hard I could barely speak. He thought I'd had a nightmare, told me to stop mixing vodka and Red Bull, and went back to bed. I stayed on deck the rest of the night, jumping at every sound. When the sun came up and the other boats started stirring, I finally relaxed enough to make coffee. The guys gave me grief about looking like hell, but I played it off. We spent Sunday on the water, and I started to convince myself I'd imagined it. Heat exhaustion, dehydration, maybe a weird dream. By evening, I was laughing about it. We anchored in the same cove closer to the other boats. The guys wanted a night swim. I stayed on the boat, told them I was too sunburned. Tyler called me a pussy, but they jumped in anyway, whooping and splashing. I watched them with the spotlight, making sure I could see all 3 heads. That's when I heard it. Not crying this time, laughing, children laughing, somewhere between our boat and the shore. "You guys hear that?" I called out. Josh spit water. "Hear what?" The laughing got louder. It was coming from directly below them. 2 distinct voices. Little boys, maybe 4 and 6 years old, playing. "There's kids out here," Derek said, treading water. "What kind of parents let their kids swim at midnight?" The laughter stopped. The water went still. Even the usual lake sounds, insects, distant music, boat engines, seemed to pause. Then Tyler screamed. Not a startled shout, a real scream, terror and pain mixed. He went under. Derek and Josh swam for him, and I froze. Every muscle locked up, remembering that woman from the night before. But Tyler was drowning. I forced myself to move, grabbed the boat hook, and dove in. The water was warm on top, but there was a cold current underneath, like swimming through layers. Tyler surfaced, gasping, kicking frantically. Something grabbed me. Something fucking grabbed my leg. We got him to the ladder. Under the deck lights, I could see scratches on his calf. Small ones, in 2 sets, like 2 pairs of little hands had clawed at him. That's when she surfaced behind us. The woman in blue rising from the water like a submarine. Not swimming, standing. The water came up to her waist even though we were in 20 feet. "You found them," she said, and her dead face stretched into that horrible smile. "My boys, they like you. They want to play." Derek let out a sound I've never heard a grown man make. We all scrambled for the ladder at once, a tangle of limbs and panic. Josh went under. Something pulled him down. I grabbed his arm and pulled hard enough to dislocate his shoulder. He came up screaming, but alive. The woman was laughing now, a sound like water going down a drain. "Stay," she said. "Stay and play. They've been so lonely. No one stays anymore. Everyone always leaves." Tyler had the engine started before we were all on deck. He threw it in reverse so hard we nearly went over the side. The woman didn't follow. She stood there, in the deep water, watching us go. As we pulled away, I heard the children laughing again, and splashing, like they were chasing us. We didn't stop until we reached the marina just after midnight. Didn't even tie up properly, just abandoned the boat and ran for the parking lot. The marina office called the next day about damage to the hull. Long scratches along the waterline, they said, like someone had been clawing at it. Josh's shoulder was dislocated. Tyler needed 12 stitches for the gashes on his leg. The emergency room doctor said it looked like he'd been grabbed by multiple small hands with jagged fingernails. Maybe a school of fish, he suggested. We didn't correct him. I looked her up when I got home. Found dozens of stories about a woman in blue at Lake Lanier. Most say she lost her children when the lake was formed, that she searches for them endlessly. But I found one different story on a local history forum. In 1957, a woman named Margaret Paulson refused to evacuate when they flooded the valley. She was convinced her 2 boys, aged 4 and 6, who drowned in the Chattahoochee River the previous summer, were still alive somewhere. She had to wait for them to come home, she said. The authorities removed her by force, but she broke free and ran back to her house. They found her body after the lake filled, floating in what had been her front yard. She was wearing her best Sunday dress, blue, with a full skirt. But they never found her sons' bodies. Not in the river, not anywhere. I think about that sometimes, about how she said they'd been practicing for 60 years, about those scratches on Tyler's leg, about the laughter under the water. We all deal with it differently. Derek won't talk about it. Josh won't swim in anything but pools. Tyler moved to Arizona, said he needed to live somewhere without lakes. Me, I can't stop thinking about it. Can't stop wondering if those boys are still down there, in whatever's left of that flooded town. Sometimes I dream about her, standing on the water in that ruined dress, calling for her boys. And sometimes, in those dreams, I hear them answer. From deep below, where the old town sleeps, 2 little voices laughing and playing forever and ever.